like a Hellcat.
Now, I'm not going to deny when I first started reviewing Saturn games 3 years ago, I had no idea if I would even make it to 100 games. But thankfully, I can say that we've actually gone past that now. We've gained quite a few subscribers in the process, and I have thoroughly enjoyed taking a look at all of these different games. So I thought, what better way than to look back and celebrate those first 100 reviews with a best of video covering what I believe were the best games in a variety of different categories that I've looked at within the first 100 games. We'll have a runner-up and a winner for each category. Now, of course, I will point out you need to take everything I say with a pinch of salt because it really is just focusing on the first 100 games that I've reviewed. There are lots of quality games that I have yet to cover on the channel, and obviously they will not feature here. There'll be certain categories that don't feature simply because I've not looked at enough games in certain genres to really have a runner-up and a winner. So with all of that being said, I think it's time we get on and take a look at my best of the first 100 for the Sega Saturn. So starting out with one of the easier categories, I went for puzzle games first, and our runner-up is Tetris Plus. You've got classic mode, you've got versus mode, and you've got a challenge mode, and the visuals have been drastically updated over the original game, and it plays just as well as Tetris ever has. Now, I probably would have put Bust-a-Move 2 as the runner-up if I had better colour ability with my eyes, but that game is too hard for me to play, so here in our runner-up spot is Tetris Plus. If you've watched my channel for a long time, you'll know that I spoke quite fondly of Baku Baku when I reviewed it. The premise of this game is very simple. Match up the correct animal with the food that they eat and try and defeat your opponent as you go on a quest to try and become the royal zookeeper for the princess. It's a really simple but addictive game. It's got great tunes, it's got 2-player, it's got arcade and ranking mode as well. There's even a secret league mode, but for the life of me, I still can't figure out how to do it because it's all in Japanese. Regardless of that though, Baku Baku is a great playing puzzle game and is well deserved of being our current #1 ranked puzzle game on the Saturn. So keeping with the easier topics, I've gone for best sports game next, and our runner-up is currently Victory Boxing. This is a very good technical boxing game. It's not a button masher. If you come into it with that attitude, you will thoroughly get beaten, but learn the controls, learn how to dodge and evade and conserve your energy as you try and beat your opponents, and you will be thoroughly rewarded as you try and move up the rankings and become the world champion in your weight class, because this is truly a great boxing game. Even though it might not look the part, it still plays the part. So it probably won't come as a surprise when I say our current winner is Athlete King / Decathlete, because this is pure arcade button mashing goodness at its best. And to go with the fantastically simplistic gameplay, we have got high quality visuals. It runs in the Saturn's high resolution, and we've probably got the best looking 3D character models on the entire console within this game. There's a variety of events as you try and break world records and complete the game, and obviously you've got multiplayer as well, and that can be very competitive. And this is one of those games that you can go back to year after year, have a go here and there and try and better your world records, and it hasn't lost any of its appeal all these years later, which is why it is currently the best sports game I have played on the Saturn. So moving on to a slightly trickier category, and that is best platformer, and currently in our runner-up spot is Shinobi X. Now, I'm not a Shinobi veteran. In fact, the only Shinobi games I've completed are the trilogy on the Master System. I have not really played any of the Mega Drive games thoroughly, but what I can tell you from Shinobi X is that it's a great play-in, decent looking and it's a great sounding game as well. One of the things that surprises me now is the fact that these digitized sprites hold up so much better than a lot of other games from this era, and the animations for the main character are all really good too. You've got quite a few levels to go through as well, and I just feel overall Shinobi X is well deserving of the runner-up spot currently. So moving on to our winner, and it may well come as a surprise that I've said Croc Legend of the Gobbos is currently the best platformer I've played on the system. I feel it's one of the better looking fully 3D games on the system. It's by no means perfect. There are some glitches, mainly when the camera messes up here and there, but it sounds great as well. And once you get used to the tank controls, it plays reasonably well too. And to go with that, we've got a pretty big game here. There are quite a lot of levels to go through. So I feel Croc is currently fully deserving of the winner's spot in terms of our best platformer. So moving on to our best shooter category next, and our runner-up is fully deserving of its position, and that is Panzer Dragoon Zwei. This game does exactly what I want a sequel to do. Take all the good points of the original game and simply make them better. The presentation with the graphics is better, the soundtrack is even better as well in my opinion, and that's a really tough thing to do because Panzer Dragoon had a brilliant soundtrack. In terms of the gameplay, our dragon can evolve and become more powerful as we progress through the game, and you've got your fantastic berserk attack. And in terms of the lifespan, there's more to see, and the game takes longer to complete. So all in all, Panzer Dragoon Zwei is fully deserving of the runner-up spot. Which means our deserving winner in this category is Darius Gaiden. It's been in my Sega Saturn top 10 for a very long time, and revisiting it for this video reminded me exactly why it is still so highly ranked. It has got wonderful, unique graphical presentation. This game looks absolutely fantastic. Some of the screen filling special moves are simply brilliant as well, and to go with that, we have got a weird, bizarre, mystical soundtrack that befits the graphical style of this game absolutely amazingly. There's loads of weapon upgrades as well, and there are multiple different routes for you to take, meaning this game has got pretty decent lifespan as well. It is a big challenge as well to play this game, so it pretty much does have all bases covered, which is why Darius Gaiden is currently my best shooter on the Saturn. So moving on to the best light gun category, and the runner-up spot could really only be taken by either Virtua Cop or House of the Dead, and I feel House of the Dead edges it simply because it's more exciting to play in my opinion. I think it's fantastic, running around, gunning down all the zombies and the other monsters that you see on display within the game. Yes, the game doesn't look or run as good as it should have done by this point in time in the Saturn's life. But regardless of that, this game is still tremendous fun, and there's quite a lot to see as well because there's branching paths to take and there's multiple endings. So without a doubt, House of the Dead is deserving of the runner-up spot. And I don't think anyone's really going to object with me saying that Virtua Cop 2 is the best light gun game on the system. It looks great, it performs great, it sounds really good, and it's tremendously fun to play. It's great for 2 players, and there's more to see this time around because we've got branching paths. So I feel Virtua Cop 2 is the perfect choice as best light gun game on the system. Now, moving on to the categories where I've covered quite a few games, and that is the racing game category. I've covered many games like Cyber Speedway, Gale Racer, Wipeout, both the Daytonas, Highway 2000, and Hardcore 4x4, but it is none of those that feature as the runner-up. And in fact, many people will be surprised that this game is the runner-up because I'm talking about Sega Rally. For many people, this is the best racing game on the system. It was one of the very best looking 3D racing games when it came out. It had some great tunes, but most importantly, it played brilliantly and still plays brilliantly to this day. We had 2-player split screen as well, and it really is a great racing game, and it's fully deserving of the runner-up spot, which of course leaves the big question, which game comes out on top? I think without a doubt this is probably going to create the most controversy. When I say Wipeout 2097 or Wipeout XL, depending on your region, is better than Sega Rally. For me, this game looks better than Sega Rally. It's got more varied gameplay because of all the items and the power-ups that you can get. It's got a superior soundtrack with more music in the game as well, and the one-player mode has got far more content, more vehicles, more tracks. I feel this game is a more enjoyable experience than Sega Rally. Yes, it doesn't have a two-player mode, and that does count against it, obviously, with no multiplayer value. But in terms of a solid one-player racing game, I feel this is genuinely better than Sega Rally, and I have far more fun playing this game than I do Sega Rally. And I'm not lying, Sega Rally plays really well, but for me, Wipeout 2097 is the best racing game I have played so far on the system.
Rocket.
So moving on to the adventure genre next, and this can pretty much include anything from the likes of Tomb Raider all the way down to the murky depths of Virtual Highlight and the Crow's City of Angels. But our runner-up is the game known as Dark Savior, which is a fantastic looking 3D game with some big, bold 2D character sprites as well. It mashes together multiple different genres such as one-on-one fighting, platforming and RPG elements as well to make one multi-path branching adventure game that is a very, very good game. The only downside here really is the control scheme and getting used to it, and once you do, and if you can overcome that, I am sure that you will have a great time experiencing the different branching paths that Dark Savior has to offer. And it won't come as much of a surprise when I say Deep Fear is currently the best adventure game that I've played on the system. It combines great presentation with good sound, great atmosphere in this game as well. It plays really well, and there's a great list of characters to get to know and eventually see their grisly demise, as well as the fact it's actually a pretty lengthy adventure. It's longer than similar games of this style like Resident Evil and its sequel Resident Evil 2. So I feel Deep Fear is fully deserving of being named Best Adventure Game. So moving on to the best 2D fighter category, and the Saturn has a whole stack of 2D fighters, and I've taken a look at quite a few already, but the top two were never really in any doubt, with the runner-up being the original Street Fighter Alpha. Now this game took the Street Fighter series in a new direction in terms of gameplay, graphical style, new characters and new moves. It really is a great playing fighting game still. It's not perfect, the backgrounds don't really have a whole lot of animations, there aren't actually that many characters on the game, and there isn't really a whole lot of content within the game either, but there can be no denying that it still plays a great game.
KO, you win. Perfect.
Now, some people might say it's boring to have a Street Fighter game as a runner-up and another as the winner, but the fact is Street Fighter Alpha 2 is by far the best playing 2D fighter that I have played on the Saturn so far. This game does everything you could want a sequel to do. It adds more visual variety, more backdrops, more animations with the backgrounds as well, more characters, more moves, more content with modes of play. This game really is a fantastic 2D fighter, and it is tremendously fun and satisfying to play as well, and there's a good reason why it's still so high in my Saturn top 10, and I've got a feeling it may all stay there forever because Street Fighter Alpha 2 is a fantastic 2D fighter. So moving on to the best 3D fighter category next, and this was one of the toughest decisions to make in this whole video, and I've gone for Virtua Fighter 2 as the runner-up. This is a great looking fighting game. For the time it came out, without a doubt the best fighting game in terms of looks on the market. It ran in Saturn's high resolution mode, there's loads of moves to learn, it's got a fantastic soundtrack, and it's got great replay value due to the fact that it is so enjoyable to play, and it's thoroughly deserving of the runner-up spot. which of course means Fighters Megamix has taken the winner position in this category. And there are a few reasons why I had to pick this as the best fighting game. It has got far more characters than Virtua Fighter 2, more moves, and there have been moves added in from Virtua Fighter 3, meaning from a gameplay perspective, I have to say that Fighters Megamix is a better 3D fighter. There's no denying Virtua Fighter 2 looks better, and in my opinion it has a better soundtrack as well, and my nostalgia edges towards Virtua Fighter 2, but from a game playing perspective as a 3D fighter, Fighters Megamix comes out as the winner. So moving on to my favourite genre next, and that is the best RPG on the console. And our runner-up is Mystaria, The Realms of Lore, also known as Blazing Heroes. Now this game has been called a strategy game by many people online before, and I'm not really sure why, because this is an RPG through and through. You take control of Prince Aragorn as he takes on the quest to try and reclaim his homeland of Queensland from the evil Lord Bane. You travel around the world, you collect allies, you power your abilities up. It is an RPG through and through. Now this game is a pretty poor looking game, and it hasn't got a lot of music in the game either, but where this game has tremendous strength is the depth in the combat and the gameplay. With the amount of abilities that your characters can learn, it has a fantastic battle system, and that is why I've ranked this game higher than the likes of Shining the Holy Ark, Albert Odyssey, and even Panzer Dragoon Saga. I definitely feel Mystaria is worthy of being the runner-up. And our winner of Best RPG is another game that many people have called a strategy game, and that is Shining Force 3. I'm not going to refer to one of the three games in particular, just going to group it together as one. This tells the story of three individuals eventually uniting to overcome the Bolzome sect, and you get to play through the three scenarios from different characters' perspectives. And it is fantastic. There's loads of characters to get to know, loads of abilities, loads of spells. It's got a great combat system as well. Graphics, I feel, are underrated on this game too. The 3D battle engine and the graphics around the towns are really good, and it's got a fantastic soundtrack too. So I feel overall, Shining Force 3 is thoroughly deserved, currently being called the best RPG that I have played on the Saturn. So moving on to best 2D visuals next, and there's no denying that the Saturn has got quite a lot of good looking 2D fighters, shooters and platformers in particular, and for this category I decided that the games could only be eligible for it if they were completely 2D, no part 2D, part 3D games, because the Saturn has got a few games like that, so I thought that would simplify it a little bit. And in our runner-up position, I have gone for Astal, because this game has such beautiful hand-drawn graphics. I don't think anybody is going to argue about how nice Astal looks. The backdrops in particular with their multiple layers look really, really good, and the animations are so nice within this game as well. So I fully feel that Astal is deserving of being the runner-up in the best 2D visuals. Now, it was quite difficult to split between our runner-up and our winner positions because they're completely different styles of games, but I feel that Street Fighter Alpha 2 is the best looking 2D game that I have played so far on the Saturn. Everything about it looks good. The characters, the backdrops, even the menus and the loading screens, it reeks of quality, and that is why I put it as number one. It flows so brilliantly as well. All of the moves, the special moves, the animations for all of them look absolutely top draw, which is why I put Street Fighter Alpha 2 as currently the best looking 2D game that I've played on the system. So moving on to 3D visuals, and this was a very, very tough decision to make because there are some games on the Saturn which have got those high resolution character models and they look really good. Athlete Kings, Last Bronx, Virtua Fighter 2 have got really good character models, but they don't create fully 3D worlds. And I wanted something, a couple of games that I felt provided the best fully 3D experience on the system, and it was really tough because there was nothing, I feel, that is head and shoulders above anything else on the system. I feel by the time the Saturn got to the point where it should be getting maximum quality in terms of its 3D visuals, the console was dead. So we never saw those versions of Virtua Fighter 3 or Shenmue coming out. So we never really got to see, I feel, the maximum potential that the Saturn had in terms of 3D visuals. So in the runner-up position, I have gone for Wipeout 2097. Like I said when I spoke about it earlier on, this game looks great. It runs great as well, and I genuinely feel it's one of the very best looking 3D games on the system. I really can't go against that. I feel it is very, very good. Yes, it doesn't quite perform as well as the PlayStation version, and it doesn't have those true transparencies, but regardless, it is still a great looking game, which is why I have put Wipeout 2097 as the runner-up for best 3D visuals. So the winner for best 3D visuals goes to Panzer Dragoon Zwei. I find myself agreeing with what somebody else said a while back when they did a similar style of video, when they said that Panzer Dragoon Zwei has the best 3D visuals on the entire console. And that day I sat there and I said to myself, no way, there must be some better looking 3D games than this. And actually, after looking at 100 games, I find myself coming back to Panzer Dragoon Zwei and saying, no, this is the best looking 3D game overall that I've looked at on the system. It might not run in the Saturn's higher resolution, but there is so much going on here. All the enemies look good, the bosses look good, the amount of weaponry that you can fire at the enemies as well, it all looks fantastic, it runs fantastic as well, and there's variety with the visual presentation in all of the levels, and that is why Panzer Dragoon Zwei, in my eyes, is so far the best looking 3D game that I've looked at on the Saturn. So moving on to best sound next, and this was the very hardest category to come up with a clear runner-up, because I felt so many games could have featured in this position, because I have looked at so many fantastic sounding games within my first 100 reviews. Both Virtua Fighters, both Wipeouts, Albert Odyssey, Dark Savior, Sonic Racer, Cyber Speedway. So many games have got brilliant soundtracks on the Saturn, and it was a really tough choice, but in the end I decided to go for Dragon Force, and that's because not only does it have great sound effects within the battles, it has some truly quality musical tunes that stick in your mind even after you've finished playing a game, and that for me is a real sign of quality music. So what I'm going to do is what I love to do, and give you some examples of the music that you can find within the classic Dragon Force. One thing that wasn't in doubt though was the winner of best sound, because I've given that to Shining Force 3, because I feel these three games on the whole deliver exactly what I want from sound effects and music. And I'm not referring to one game over the other, because the three games share a lot of the same sound effects and music. But what they do is have musical tracks that draw on your emotions. They make you feel something. And that, for me, is a tremendous quality within music. And it's something that takes a lot of skill, I feel, for composers to pull off. So that is why I have put Shining Force 3 as the best sounding game that I have looked at so far. So what I'm going to do is play you some tracks from the game to try and justify why I put it at the top. So moving on to best overall game, and I know there are going to be people out there who are saying I've mentioned the same games multiple times within this awards video, and that's simply because those games have got so much quality. It would be unfair if I picked other games just because I didn't want to mention the same games twice. And Shining Force 3 Part 2 is an absolutely brilliant game. You'll notice that I've said Part 2 rather than the games as a whole, because they are 3 individual games, and for actual overall quality, Part 2 is the best one in my opinion. It's got some more special effects within battle, and also some of the additional characters that you collect in this game feel like they matter more than the first game. I felt in the first part of Shining Force 3 they were just tacked on, but in this one they feel like they're more integrated into the story. So Shining Force 3 Part 2 overall is my runner-up for best game. And of course, that means our winner for best overall game so far is, of course, Dragon Force. If you're familiar with my Saturn Top 10, you'll know that this is top of my PAL Top 10 and my worldwide Top 10 as well. It really is that good. It's a game that combines great 2D visuals, fantastic sound, really addictive gameplay as you try and conquer that map and take control of all of those castles, a story that gets better and better as the game goes along, and amazing replay value as well. It really is a fantastic package, and that is why currently Dragon Force is my best game that I've taken a look at on the Sega Saturn. So with all of the awards done and dusted, I think it's really important that I say that you take all of this with a pinch of salt, because I've only covered 101 games as it stands at the time of creating this video. There are so many more Saturn games left for me to cover, not only PAL games, but games that were released in other territories as well. And I'm looking forward to covering more and more games as the weeks go by. If your favorite games haven't been mentioned, it may well be because I haven't reviewed any of them yet. So don't hate on the video for that. Let me know your thoughts though on your favorite games in all the categories that I did cover, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me, whether games that I've not covered yet would be better than some of the other games that I've mentioned within my categories. And like always, I'll be back in the near future with some more videos. Goodbye for now.